You know, most corporate climate plans have a huge, and I mean huge, blind spot, one that could be incredibly costly. So today, we're going to dive into what that is and why the most critical element of your strategy might not be carbon at all. It's people. So let's just kick things off with a really direct question for every leader listening. You've got a climate plan, right? But is it actually complete? Is it built to withstand the pressures of the real world? Okay, so what is this gap we're talking about? Well, experts are calling it the people blind spot, and it's a pretty serious flaw in how most companies are tackling their climate transition.
Now look, don't get me wrong, focusing on technology, on emissions reduction, that's all absolutely essential. We have to do it, but it creates an imbalance. It's really only telling half of the story. Because here's the thing, this isn't just some technical problem to be solved with spreadsheets and new gadgets. It is a massive social transformation. I mean, think about it. When you shut down a fossil fuel plant, you're not just cutting emissions. You're impacting the jobs of your employees, the economy of an entire community. Everyone is right at the center of this change.
So, what happens when you ignore this blind spot? Well, this is where it gets serious. It's not just a nice to have or a moral issue. It becomes a major financial and operational risk for your business. Let's break down the actual consequences. The impacts are like a dangerous domino effect. It can start with legal challenges from communities who feel left behind. That, in turn, leads to your big new green projects getting delayed for months or even years. Then your brand's reputation takes a hit, which can ripple out, disrupting your supply chain, and even making it harder to get funding from investors who are watching all of this unfold. But here is the really powerful part. You can flip this whole thing on its head. Every single one of those risks has a matching opportunity. You can see it right here. Instead of reputational harm, you can build enhanced brand trust. Instead of project delays, you get smoother operations. This isn't just about dodging bullets. It's about actively building a much stronger, more resilient business. So, how do we actually do that? How do we grab those opportunities and fix that blind spot for good? The answer is in a framework that's getting a lot of attention, a just transition strategy. A just transition is a clear, proactive game plan. It's all about systematically weaving people, your workforce, your suppliers, your customers, the communities you operate in, into the very fabric of your climate strategy. It's not some add-on you tack on at the end, it's a core component from day one. This quote from the guide we're looking at today just hits the nail on the head. For any business leader, this means you simply can't separate your technical climate goals from their social impact. They're two sides of the very same coin. And when you adopt this mindset, it fundamentally changes your business. Climate action stops being this isolated, technical task handled by one department. Instead, it becomes a central pillar that supports your company's overall strength and its ability to thrive long-term. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually make it happen? Well, the good news is there's a practical playbook designed specifically for this. To help leaders navigate all this complexity, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development and ERM got together and created the Business Leader's Guide to a Just Climate Transition. You can think of it as a bridge to get you from theory to a real, practical, integrated strategy. The guide lays out a really clear 5-step process. First, you clarify what your company's social responsibilities actually are. Then, you build the case inside your own walls by connecting this to financial performance. Next, you have to understand the unique impacts in every region you operate in. It's not one size fits all. Then you align these actions with your duties to shareholders. And finally, you embed the whole shebang into your core climate strategy. And the guide is packed with other tangible tools too. You'll find specific recommendations for your board and real-world case studies from companies already doing this. For example, there's one case study that shows how a major energy company successfully retrained its workforce for new jobs in renewable energy, turning what could have been a huge social risk into a major win for both the company and the community. It's really powerful stuff. So let's pull all this together. What is the ultimate takeaway for a business leader? It's really about a fundamental shift in perspective, from seeing social factors as just another risk you have to manage to seeing them as a direct pathway to resilience. This isn't about adding another layer of bureaucracy or some compliance burden. Integrating a just transition strategy is about building a business that is fundamentally stronger, more agile, and actually ready for the future that is frankly already here. Ultimately, this whole approach builds deep, lasting trust with the people who matter most, your employees, your investors, your customers.
It future-proofs your company by getting ahead of the systemic social risks that are completely tied up in the climate transition.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. You've worked hard on a plan to address your company's emissions, and that's great. But the real question is, have you built a plan that truly addresses your company's future?